Hello everyone. We're going to have a class today that's going to discuss with you problems with audio. A brief discussion with you about concerns with a customer having audio issues, no audio, garbled or fuzzy or distorted audio. Customer complaint in this one, no audio. They move the volume control up and down and it produces no audio out of the television speakers. We have three major components in our audio systems. The three major components are the power supply, which delivers voltage to drive the audio amp, the main board, which processes the audio and also has the audio amp on it, and the speakers. The secondary components of our audio situation is the cables that interface the power audio to the main board, and the cable interface that interfaces the speaker outputs from the main board to the speakers themselves. And also, on a secondary note, the first thing we're going to do is try to figure out why we have no audio and do that from the customer's menu standpoint. There are situations a customer can put the menu in which the audio is defeated. So the first thing you want to do is confirm that the audio is turned on for the internal speakers. Press the home button and bring up the home screen. In the upper right, you see a toolbar. Press your toolbar, go to our sound output, and here we see our problem. The customer has set the menu for optical sync output. Now in this situation, the purpose for that is to communicate to the off-board device, amplifier or whatever, through the optical cable and control its volume through our customer remote. Now here you can see there's an external speaker optical HDMI ARC. Now this is optical output or using the audio return channel on HDMI. Now in that case, the customer's volume control would not work. It would be muted out. And there would be no audio, obviously, out of the speakers. In our 2014 models, the deal is this. If you have it set for optical, then there's no internal speakers. If you have it set for speakers, there is no optical out. You cannot have both optical and internal speakers on at the same time. What we want to do is move to the TV internal speakers. And now we'll check our volume. Now, next situation, what we might want to discuss is what if that wasn't our problem? In other words, we've gone into the menu and the menu is fine. One thing you might want to do as a quick test is go back into the menu setting, sound settings again, and go back to the sound test. Now in the sound test, we hear the sound from the television. Now let me mention something about this situation. If you had set it for optical, it would ask you to turn the speakers on. Our 2013 models, and before that, turned the speakers on automatically. But the 2014 models do not. It actually brings up a question for you to turn them on. And you can say yes and turn on the internal speakers. And then an internal audio file will play. That's a good way to test it out. And then you would know, hey, I might better check my inputs. In other words, they could have a problem with one input and all the rest of the inputs work fine. Then you could be dealing with an off-board device such as a DVD player and or a set-top box of some kind. So be sure to investigate those as well by checking other inputs before you condemn the television as needing service. Let's assume that we have found that all our settings are okay, but we still have no audio. Well, the next thing we want to do is investigate those three major components. So we're going to take our meter and we're going to attach it to ground. And we're going to place it into the DC mode. And you're going to use the label that's indicated right on the power supply and look for your audio B+. And usually that will be between 17 to 24 volts. count up on that 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 10. 9 and 10 is our 24-volt supply. First check is just confirm 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. And we're going to look for our 24-volt power supply. Confirmed, we have it. Now the reason I'm checking it on the main board side is because there is a possibility that I've lost communication between the 2 points. If you do not have it here, next step would be investigate the power supply. You could have a defective cable. Now the next thing after you've done that would be make another quick check on the audio output. Now on the audio output you can pick any pin. It doesn't matter what pin you choose. And you want to look for approximately 1/2 of the audio B+ level on any pin. Just a real brief explanation, we use a push-pull driver out of our audio processor. Push-pull means that neither side of the speaker sets on ground potential. Therefore, you have 1/2 of the audio B+ on both legs, and then the amplifiers will push-pull the cone in and out to create the audio level. If you've got that audio, then you're in good shape. Then the next thing what you want to do is confirm you have continuity between the output to the speaker. Now you can do that one of 2 ways. You can unplug it and go into the end, or you can read on both sides. Now if you've got your 1/2 audio B+ on both speakers, you know that, hey, I'm producing 24. You know that I'm getting 24 down to the audio amp. You know that I'm driving the speakers with audio B+. So the next thing you want to do is remove power. You can either unplug it or turn it off, your choice. Either way you want to go about this. To me it seems easier if you pull the connector off of the main board. Look at your speaker, and on all of our speakers there's a label. The label will tell you the ohmage of the speaker. You want to go into your ohmage setting on your meter, and you want to read across the 2 speaker wires, say to the left and to the right. So there's your 8 ohms on this side and 8 ohms on the other. So our speakers are reading okay. We know our speakers are good. So this is the way you're going to find out one thing or another, okay? You're either missing power, you have an open connection or unseated connector, or you have an open or unseated connector on the speaker side, or you have open speakers. And you can isolate it and walk it down to that specific major component. If you have all of your voltages, you have all of your continuity, and everything is appropriate, all of your settings on your menu are fine, then your problem lies with the only board that does audio processing, and that's the main board. But that should be your last choice after you've confirmed all the other possibilities. If there's a manual available, which there is on this particular model, you can also get further details, exact voltage readings and continuity checks out of the manual, such as the main board connector, where we looked at our 24-volt input, such as our audio amplifier section, shows up on page 811. It shows you the B+ readings you should check. It will give you amplifier input voltages. Now, don't forget that the audio amplifier runs off of 2 voltages. It's called audio amplification voltage. That's the 24 volts. And it's called low voltage signal processing voltage. And in this case, it's 3.3 volt normal. And it tells you where to make those checks and how to find that. There is one final thing it wouldn't hurt you to check, and that would be more confirmation. And in this case, there's a small mute transistor. And it shows you exactly what voltage you should read. And that transistor should have a high on its output. If it's low, it means it's protecting it by being in mute. And of course, that would be no audio. All that's shown to you on 811. And there's a breakdown even further on page 817, which shows you the signal flow, so you could follow that for all the voltage levels going into that audio amp. So good detailed information and detailed digging, if you really want to get in and prove the main board is the fault and what's causing your issue. Now I want to do a brief discussion with you about something that comes up quite frequently, and this is dealing with optical audio output. And by the way, I'm making a new page in the manual that I'm adding some additional details about optical audio. We have two menu items that affect the way optical audio works. We have the service menu called Adjust or Easy Adjust menu, and this is the EDID screen. We have the customer's menu setting, which is the one I've already showed you, the sound setting. And I want to talk to you about that because it makes a difference as to what is available, what format is available out the optical. So let's begin with the customer's menu. If I go to the settings menu and I go again to the sound and the sound output, and you notice we have TV speaker, external speaker, which is what we want to look at, so I'm going to click on that. Look at the bottom. There's something called digital sound output. Now here's where it gets tricky. You have an easy adjust menu that comes from the factory, and it's set in PCM, pulse code modulation, as what's known as the primary audio handshake or primary audio processing format. In other words, when I hook an HDMI or any digital port, it communicates and says, what kind of signal can I process and what kind of signal must you send me? Well, the Easy Adjust menu tells it about the audio. If it's set for PCM, it tells the device to send PCM audio at all times if possible. If possible. And if PCM is available, then coming out of the optical audio output will be stereo, PCM. Now, usually that's what most customers want who use the sound bars as their inexpensive surround system. Most sound bars will take PCM audio. And the problem comes, though, is when you get some sound bars that only receive PCM audio and process it. And here's where the problem comes in. Again, I'm mentioning the source, okay? DVD player, set-top box, over-the-air, digital, whatever. There are three primary streams of audio: PCM and Dolby Digital AC3 and DTS. Some systems send out PCM only. Some send out Dolby Digital and AC3 and PCM. Some send out DTS and PCM. And some send out all three, AC3, PCM, and DTS. The handshake that took place when you first turned on the TV and connected with the digital source through HDMI told it that it wanted PCM, so that's what comes out. But what if a customer has a nice surround system and they want Dolby Digital or the output surround sound system, 5.1 Dolby Digital or something? Now, here comes the layout, all right? What we got to think about. Remember, I'm talking to you now from the customer's menu standpoint and from the service menu standpoint, which comes from the factory preset PCM. You notice that the setting on the output here is digital out, and it says auto. Now, theoretically, you would think that that means whatever comes in, I'll process it. But that's not exactly true, because the handshake that took place told it what to send it if it could, and that would be PCM. However, what happens on those cases where you have it set for PCM and auto? And by the way, let me mention one other thing while I'm here. If you go to the digital out, you only have two choices: auto and PCM. Now, if you fix it on PCM, as long as there's PCM coming in, it will be on PCM. No matter what the service menu says, it'll be on PCM if it's present. Now that would be customers with that sound bar I mentioned that only processes PCM. So here comes the first key point I want you to know. There is no converter in this TV. Now what do I mean by converter? If you're getting some kind of audio stream only, let's say you're only getting AC3, it cannot convert that to PCM. So if a customer is scrolling through channels and they hit a channel that only has AC3, then their soundbar will have no audio because all it can process is PCM. And they don't have any PCM, so they do not have audio on that channel. That's why if they complain about no audio out the optical out, you need to ask them, is that on every channel and on every source? And the odds are it's not. It's just on one or two channels that they're dealing with. Let's talk about now, suppose you want to change this to where it will work in a home theater environment. The first thing you want to do, now it comes out of the factory with this setting set for auto. Normally you don't have to do anything here. So check it and make sure it says auto. Exit the menu and let's go into the Easy Adjust mode by simply pressing the Adjust key and entering 0413. Here we have our Easy Adjust screen. And one odd thing you need to know about WebOS, the cursor on this remote does not work in the service menu. You have to use the customer's right and left cursor. So use the right cursor. You will see PCM under the EDID type, the extended data. And what you want to do is change it to whatever the customer requires if they watch Blu-ray player all the time. I'm going to recommend you put it on DTS, or you can put it on AC3, which is the most common audio. But listen, if you put it on AC3 and the Blu-ray disc only has DTS and PCM, which most of them have PCM, you will not get any surround sound because remember, there's no converter in the TV. So you have to kind of decide on what's the most often thing that they watch. If it's Blu-ray, maybe you ought to put it on DTS. If it's tuner, you may want to put it on AC3. Now, once you put it on whatever you want to set it for, it doesn't really matter if you exit or not, but we'll exit, and then what you want to make sure to do is power off. When you power off the WebOS TV and power it back on, you have a delay. Now, the delay is because we've changed something, so it has to reload the WebOS operating system with that new information, and it has to dump the EDI data down into the EEPROM for handshake through the HDMI port. Well, of course, that takes some time. Now it's complete, and now what you have done is since you altered this to AC3 on the Easy menu, you have now allowed this TV, when it sees AC3 audio, and you have it set for digital, remember the output digital for auto, then out of the optical will come whatever particular AC3 Dolby Digital audio that there's processing. Now you can have surround sound through your home theater. If they want to convert that back to PCM, they can do that now through the customer's menu and just go in there and change it to PCM only. Now, why, you might ask, do we put it in PCM from the factory? Well, the reason is because of lip sync issues. Most people watch the TV using internal speakers. And if they do that, then they don't necessarily care about surround, so they'll put it in PCM, which is the most common way to listen with a two-speaker system. And they don't have to deal with lip sync issues. Now, if they do have complaints after you change it on certain channels or certain inputs, that are having lip sync problems, they can manipulate the lip sync through the customer's menu doing AV sync. So we go into the sound again, and you can see that we have our AV sync adjust, and this helps to optimize digital audio on a digital output port between audio and video sync. If it's still not enough, go back into the Instart menu, and again, scroll down and look under System 1. Remember, you got to now use the customer's remote to cursor right, scroll down, and go to Lip Sync Adjust. And you can move that up 20 down to make your audio-video lag compensated. This is the port that you're on at the time, so you can set it up for tuner or HDMI or PC if you're having an input through HDMI as a PC port. And you can go down or up using the right and left cursor on the customer's remote. Just remember, when you do this, it is permanent. So if something corrects the problem and or they move to a new signal source, they're still going to have that delay, whatever you set up or advance from this menu. That's the only reason I would say use the customer's AV sync as a first step, because that will usually take care of the problem before you make this kind of an adjustment.
Okay.
I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us today, and I hope this will help you with some audio issues you may come across or you might come across in the future. My name is Alvy Rogers, and I thank you for being here.